What it's kind of culturally defined what mental illness is. It definitely depends on who you're asking and what situation you're asking in. I guess the definition term is anything that kind of either physical or social that is maladaptive to the general society.
When somebody's own perspective or perception of reality doesn't quite mesh with what the general community sees as being reality, so they're like defined as ill in a way, maybe.
Sometimes it has to do with chemical imbalances in the brain, I guess, but
yeah. Mental illness, I think, is when you can't function, when it affects how you function in the world on an emotional, psychological level.
I think it's when something is wrong with your brain, or like you don't have all of like the necessary functions like working.
Mental illness, such a broad term, because illness, people typically think sickness, but if you look at most people in the world right now, they have some sort of mental illness. Like, some people are obsessive compulsive, and some people are depressed, and some people have dissociative identity disorder, and there are different degrees of mental illness, so I'm not quite sure how I define that.
Ooh, I don't really believe in mental illness.
Mostly I think it's a medical disease.
I think mental illness is when people kind of like lose their self.
I think that mental illness is a disease.
Chemical imbalances of the brain, like neutrons and the neurons in your brain don't fire off correctly.
Crazy people.
I think it can be a burden on somebody's life, but I feel like it's a treatable illness. It doesn't have to be medicated by like synthetic pills, but it could be
trauma.
There's different factors, definitely biological factors, brain chemical imbalances, birth defects, things like that, or physical trauma.
Something that went wrong when they were like in someone's stomach, I guess.
Either genetics or external factors.
I think the fake power that like society has and like how they want to control everyone causes this like fear, and then that fear escalates, and then it's like,
A lot can be due to childhood experiences, drugs, alcohol, addictions.
I would say trauma a lot of times too. You have bad experiences and it causes you to not deal with them correctly, so you develop it.
No serotonin in the brain.
Premature birth, maybe, family situations, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
I don't think there is any cause for mental illness.
Counseling, different assistance, disability services I know are very good and are improving. Those are definitely ways that can assist and help people with mental illnesses.
Would probably be like intensive behavioral therapy.
Probably just doctors, you can...
Therapy, and sometimes medication and exercise.
I'm not a religious person, but I know religion can help some people with mental illness.
I'd say support probably is one of the biggest things.
Eat some acid.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's a chronic disease that's manageable.
Yes, I think that somebody could get to that state with treatments and medications and help. No, I do not believe someone could fully come back from a mental illness.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess it depends what kind of mental illness.
I guess schizophrenia, I'd say.
But I've often thought that would be schizophrenia would be the worst.
Schizophrenia, by far.
I think depression.
Actually, they're all three pretty similar.
I think bipolar just because...
Let me go with bipolar.
Bipolar, if that's really a syndrome.
Probably depression, just because.
Schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia, probably.
Schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia.
For every person, but I think a lot of just like, obviously you have the sadness, you have the loneliness, and then also think keeping it, like, people keep it to themselves a lot, so I think that's like a huge symptom of just like, I don't want to say like recluse, but like, you know, just like that person that's keeping everything inside and kind of quiet and doesn't really know what's going on with themselves.
Leads auditory hallucinations and delusions.
Range from like catatonic or like word salad, where they're just like kind of in their own world. Hallucinations of visual and audio.
Shaky a lot, you know, just you can tell when you see somebody with schizophrenia.
There can be sort of psychotic episodes where they're hallucinating and don't know what's going on around them. It could be different levels. I mean, there can be some obsessive aspects of it. How they relate to other people. They don't relate as if sort of in reality of what's going on in context to them.
Twitching, like fiddling with something a lot, and then obviously talking to people or things that are not there, or at least seeming distressed by things that don't seem to exist, or at least that no one else can be aware of.
Walk along Market Street or Burnside in Portland or San Francisco and observe their behavior.
There's a medical treatment for it, something like that, but then also just their family adapting to that situation. I think it's good treatment. I mean, I really don't know how to tell you on that one.
I think medications can work very well. I think all of the above of what we talked about. I don't think it's just meds.
Recognize that maybe medication might be the first step, and then weaning them off as they talk and become more open to it.
Probably medication in that case.
Seek someone who can help them, a doctor.
Very in-depth therapy and close, a lot of help, I think, direct help, not so much with medication.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
I think that seeing a professional is very useful, but depending on the severity, and if that doesn't work, I think that medications work for a lot of people.
Therapy. I don't really think right off the bat taking pills is the way to go for a kind of treatment, so I think like an art therapy or music therapy or group therapy.
Long vacation, really long vacation.
Yeah, I would.
Oh yeah, if I was, yeah.
Yes. I suffer from depression, so I do get help for that. Yeah.
No, not really.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I currently am under the care of a mental health provider.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't look at seeking help as a bad thing, I guess, and I don't believe that people should feel bad about seeking help for different things that they might feel is different about them or.
Well, I was studying in psychology, and then just a lot of books and listening. YouTube's documentaries. Yeah.
Donnie Darko is pretty much what I know about schizophrenia.
I'd say it's a combination of classes, just word of mouth, me questioning and talking to people, and then Wikipedia.
For me, it would be through classes, friends, and my job. Actually, I work for different services throughout the University of Oregon, and so I am always in contact with the Disability Center.
I think I learned a lot about the specifics about it through classes, obviously, but then I think a lot of the other stuff is from media, and I think the negative stuff you learn from media, which is kind of sad. Like I said, we all kind of ignore it and think it's a bad thing, and so we don't try to fix it. So I think a lot of that stuff you learn from the outside world.
TV, reading.
Great.
Internet. I read newspapers. I like to keep my head with everything that's going on. So.
Personal experience, talking with friends. You live to be 50 years old, and you've accrued all these experiences, I guess. So.
I don't. I know.
One of them has a higher level of education. I think a psychologist needs to have a PhD, if I remember right.
No. I believe that psychiatrists has a MD and they can prescribe medication.
A psychiatrist is the one who's actually treating the person. A psychologist can prescribe medication.
Psychologist is a medical doctor, and no, it's the other way around.
Psychiatrist prescribes medication, and a psychologist does therapy.
Yes, but it'd take too long for me to tell you, but I do know the difference.
Psychiatrist is someone who prescribes medicine, correct? Psychologist is like a, like a sports psychologist. You go down, you're like, yo, what's up? And then they kind of,
No.
Okay.
Psychiatrist prescribes medication, psychologist does the therapies.
Psychiatrist, well, I call them shrinks. So you're going to lay down and talk to them on the bed, or you have that whole thing. Psychologist is a researcher, right?